Okay. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hoodco Roofing, hoodcoroofing.com, Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com, and ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. All right, y'all. Hope your Thursday's off to a great start. A little overcast, cold day. Supposed to be rainy in BR today, but a big day. It's cold and rainy in Baton Rouge, but the recruiting trail at LSU is heating up. Hashtag radio guy. Anyway, comments. So today is decision day for linebacker Keylan Moses. Of course, Keylan Moses is the younger brother of Dylan Moses, who has been one of the best players in Louisiana since he was in the 8th grade. He is a stud linebacker, about 6'2", 215. Think Harold Perkins. He's played running back. He's played linebacker. He can run. He's a more... I think it's fair to say that he, throughout his high school career, has probably been a better prospect than his brother. Now, Dylan's recruitment came with a ton of hype, obviously. And he had a good career at Alabama and unfortunately battled some injuries, which kind of cut his playing career short. But it's expected that this one's going to go differently. Of course, Dylan would have been an LSU Tiger. Les Miles got fired, and that opened the door for Alabama, and he went to Tuscaloosa. Keylan, all signs point to LSU. His primary recruiter has been Matt House, although Joe Sloan's also been on him. But it is important to note that LSU's been recruiting Keylan Moses for 5 years. So it's not like this is a new thing, but he's a consensus 4-star. On 3 has him as the number 22 linebacker in the country. If let me look at the 247 composite. Let's see what they have. 247 composite has him number 220 nationally, the number 9 overall athlete in the country. They rank him as an athlete, not as a linebacker. 5th best player in Louisiana. That's according to 247. Do not be deceived. He is a freak show stud, and if LSU gets him, that's exactly the type of player you need to get. Now, it's worth noting that Keylan Moses is also a 2025 prospect, so he's a high school junior right now. So by the time he gets to next year, which will be his senior year, I would expect all those rankings to increase. So again, 2025 prospect, but the type of prospect that you need to land, and this could start the domino effect of what we talked about here over the next 6 weeks, with 3 pretty significant prospects all making their announcements, with Keylan Moses here today, and then culminating at early January with Bryce Underwood, the 5-star quarterback out of Michigan, who it seems to be an LSU lean as well. So anyway, he's announcing, Keylan Moses is announcing this afternoon. So he's announcing at, I think he's announcing at 6 o'clock. So right when AFR ends, I think is when he's scheduled to announce. So we might miss it on the show today. But anyway, big day for LSU recruiting, the future of LSU recruiting, if they can get Keylan Moses. And remember, you start talking about 2025, you get Keylan Moses, of course, Bryce Underwood, who we talked about as a 2025 prospect. You start to build 2025 with some of the best players in the country already for 2025, where you've already got 5 commits. DeCorian Moore, who's a 5-star at Duncanville. John David LaFleur, who's a legacy tight end. Brett Bordelon, who obviously is a legacy. Jalen Bell is a cornerback out of Georgia, and Teron Francis out of Carr in New Orleans, the wide receiver. You already got 5 prospects for 2025. You lock up. And thank you. Harlan Berry's the other one. Thank you. That I failed to mention. But you got Keylan Moses making a decision today. You get him, and then get Bryce Underwood here in about a month. I mean, you are already stacking the 2025 class to be able to go into anybody's living room and try to get that prospect. So anyway, okay, let's say some good mornings here. Y'all fire away. LSU women's basketball plays Virginia Tech tonight. Rematch of the national semifinal from a year ago. Remember that game where Liz Kitley from Virginia Tech and Angel Reese went toe to toe. Angel, I think, had 24 and 12 in that game, but really nice. It's great to have Angel Reese back. I know everybody's curious what happened, where she was, all this stuff. Yeah, and Kim Mulkey's being evasive. I don't care. Whatever. I mean, clearly it was internal discipline. Whatever. She's back. She's a great player. And let's roll. All right. Let's say some good morning, see what y'all got. Randy Dabdoob, Jason Horn, Kelly Gross, good morning. Thad Landry, Edwin Capel, excuse me. Derek Carr is so bad they have to take him out the game when they're near the red zone. How bad is that? Well, in fairness, Scott, let's be honest, okay? You're talking about putting Taysom Hill in, and they did that with Drew Brees as well. So you have to be fair. Yes, Derek Carr is bad in the red zone. He's been one of the worst red zone conversion quarterbacks in his entire career, that spanned his career. That's nothing new, but yes. But to say he's so bad they have to take him out and put Taysom Hill in, that's a bit disingenuous because they would do the same thing with Drew Brees. Not exclusively, but that package existed. Bubba Smith, Jim Arsenault, Caleb Brignac, when do you expect to hear whether or not Jaden will opt out of the bowl game? I think once you get past, well, first of all, you're going to have to announce the bowl game first, which will come on Sunday, right after championship weekend. All the New Year's Six and playoff will be set, then the bowl games will be set. So we'll know which LSU's bowl destination on Sunday. And then after that, it's Heisman week, so I don't suspect Jaden's going to make any announcement before the Heisman. And then after the Heisman presentation, I would assume we'll have start to hear some of those decisions. Vernell Thomas, good morning, Scone. What do you think about the Duke quarterback in the transfer portal? Yeah, man. So Riley Leonard, after Mike Elko left Duke, entered the portal. My guess is that Riley Leonard's following Mike Elko to Texas A&M. I don't know that definitively. And, of course, they have Connor Wegman there, who was the starter before he got hurt this year. Max Johnson's already left. He's announced he's going to North Carolina. But I don't know where Riley Leonard's planning to go. It would make sense if he follows his coach to A&M, but we'll see in time. I'll maintain LSU's got to add a quarterback. You can't go into next season with Garrett Nussmeier having thrown fewer than 200 career passes being your only guy. So I'm not saying you bring in someone to be the starter, but you bring in someone with experience to compete with Nussmeier. If he beats out Garrett, he beats out Garrett, regardless of what fans want to see or hope to see. If you have a chance to do better, you do better. You know what I mean? And maybe it's Riley Leonard. Maybe it's Grayson McCall, who's thrown for 10,000 yards in his career. Jason Horn mentioned Will Rogers, thrown for 12,000 yards in his career. Honestly, Will Rogers should stay where he is. I mean, Jeff Lebby coming in to Mississippi State is perfect for Will Rogers. I mean, Jeff Lebby was with Briles at Baylor, and he was with Heupel at UCF, and he was with Kiffin at the Ole Miss. I mean, that's the type of offense he runs. I mean, if Will Rogers stays at Mississippi State with Lebby, he's going to break every SEC passing record ever. Excuse me. Edward O, Nussbus driver, good morning. Taylor Hudson. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Cowboys game day. Well, the only reason I care that it's Cowboys game day is because it's an NFL game day, which means I get to bet on the NFL. And watch some NFL football tonight, which I am excited about. And Dak's been on fire, man. Undeniable. Big test tonight. Let's see. Jacob Thompson, good morning, Matt. I know Matt House is getting a lot of hate this year. Why isn't Robert Steeples or Kerry Cooks getting the same hate? Jacob, because people always point the finger at the defensive coordinator. people don't point at position coaches. But you're right. Steeples and Cooks have not done a good job this year, and they deserve criticism. And that's one of the reasons I'm lobbying hard for Corey Raymond. I would love to see Corey Raymond come in and replace either or both of them, however they want to structure a staff. But yes, I mean, and I've told you all this before, Brian Kelly, when things started to go bad, started spending his time at practice exclusively coaching defensive backs. And I've talked to plenty of people who have gone out to practice during the season when media wasn't allowed, and it doesn't instill great confidence. I think you had a lot of issues on that. Clearly, you have a lot of issues on that side of the ball. But Matt House isn't absolved. Like, I don't care how deficient your talent was, you still shouldn't be one of the worst defenses ever, right? Last year, you didn't have great talent, but you had some dudes. Like, forget, you had B.J. Ojolari. You had Ali Gay. You had Jaquelin Roy. NFL players. You had Micah Baskerville, 100-tackle dude. You had some guy. I mean, Jark Bernard Converse made an NFL roster. Jay Ward was a great player for you for 4 years. Mekhi Gardner stepped up and played really well. Joe Fouché was a good veteran player. Greg Brooks, obviously. I mean, you weren't great last year talent-wise. You didn't have a bunch of like 5-stars, All-Americans, and first-round picks, but you had a good veteran group that was solid. And this year, you just did. Guy Brooks, Tim Gotro, James McKinney, Jason Mobile. Matt, been working in Kansas. How did Musso's date go? It went well. Supposedly there's going to be a second date. I don't think it's been scheduled yet, but she was open to a second date. They've been texting. Apparently, the kids these days don't call each other when they're courting. They just text. I asked Musso, have y'all talked? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, would you call her? He's like, well, we text. I'm like, talk to her? Like words? Texting is talking. Like, no, it's not. It's literally not. And you never convey your emotions accurately via text. You know what I mean? Like, how many times are you sitting there with your smug face and you're like, text, you put LOL or like 500 laughing emojis. You're not really laughing. You're just placating. Anyway. If you're in a relationship, call her. Brett DeGrow. Good morning, Matt. Love the way Mama Kim handled the media yesterday. I couldn't disagree with you more, Brett. And that's such a fan thing to say, and I get it because you're a fan, but there's a professional way to do it, and that's not it. And Kim, I know, feels like Teflon and can do and say what she wants, says she feel like she was attacked. Kim Mulkey wasn't attacked. You have a star player that you're holding out and not disclosing why you're holding out. That's fine. It's your prerogative, but you're also a highly paid public figure, and there's obviously keen interest in the program. People asking the question aren't the bad guy. Like, Brett, I could not disagree with you more. But again, she won a national title, and fans are going to side with her. Similarly, Brett, if she were losing and gave that answer, you'd be killing her today. Derek Cropper, good morning. I think Keylan Mose will pick LSU today. Yes, overwhelmingly. That's all. The crystal ball is the recruiting machine predictor, all that sort of stuff. Recruiting predictor machine, whatever. They're all pointing to Keylan Moses picking LSU. So, should be really good news for LSU today. Brian Wynn, Cody Kebido, morning, Matt. If you make massive defensive changes, is Jimmy Lindsey included? Cody, that's going to be interesting, and I don't know what they're going to do. I think I've told you all this before. My understanding is Jimmy Lindsey is recruiting again, or is set to be going on the road to recruit again. So he's sort of reintegrating into the staff. I don't know. That's a really tricky one. But I know LSU has done right by Jimmy Lindsey. It's just a crazy story. I mean, he had just he just moved here, and they were about to start fall camp, and then, he has this medical episode, and I know LSU's done right by Jimmy Lindsey. I'm sure they will, but if he's physically able, my guess is he will be coaching next year. Just a guess, though. Brennan Huff, Texas is unloading a bag for Moses. Hope he stays home, though. Kid Gordon. Spurge, good morning. Trivia Carter, Bill Gallion, what's going on? Chris P., Antron Hemingway, good morning. I hope we get him today, but it's game day for me tonight. The boys play the Seahawks. I got to wait Shaq Leonard's decision. Hope Keylan picks the Tigers today. Wendell Norman, good morning. Taz Johnson, is something going on with Jimmy Graham we don't know about? We have issues in the red zone, but we don't play him. Hey, man, even when he was dressed, they weren't playing him in the red zone. So, I think, no, like, just let me remind you, Drew's awake. Just let me remind you. Jimmy Graham had, if you look at his receptions, so go back to 2018, 636 yards, 2019, 447, 456, 157, and this year he's got one catch for 8 yards, the touchdown catch. That's it. Dude can't play anymore. Like, I don't know what to tell. Like, I wish they had never gotten rid of Jimmy Graham when they did. But there's a reason that he keeps cycling through teams. Like, he can't play anymore. He was retired. He was out of football. Like, he can't play anymore. Anyway. I need to go check on Drew. He's awake. But, Jonathan, do you think Hugh Jackson would be a good defensive coordinator? That's interesting, Jonathan. But then again, LSU still has a defensive coordinator. So, like, I know everybody wants to know who's going to replace Matt House, but, like, until Brian Kelly makes that announcement, I don't know why we're having the conversation about candidates. I get why you're asking, but at the same time, what's the time? Like, what does this look like? I mean, I'll remind you, last year they sort of reorganized with Poley in February after signing day. So I don't think you wait until February to make a move with Matt House. You know, but Kelly did say he was going to take this week, evaluate the team, and then evaluate the staff. So how does that process go? Your timeline. Don't know. Make defense great again. Morning, Matt. Do you think recruiting... But I will say, for as obvious as the decision seemed for me and all of you, that would have been something where you make that announcement like the day after the last... Like Sunday, you would have made that announcement. The fact that it hasn't come makes you look around and go, maybe Brian Kelly sees it differently. If he is... Better be right, brother, because that's the kind of thing that gets head coaches fired. Morning, Matt. Do you think recruiting is a big reason we haven't seen a change in the defensive staff yet? I think it's part of it. I also don't know what Brian Kelly wants to do, but I'm going to maintain the thing that I've said all along. You can't have a defense that bad and maintain the status quo. You can't. If you do, then you lose all confidence, trust, and benefit of the doubt with your fan base. Period. Like, as a fan, if Brian Kelly chooses not to make staff changes defensively, then you as a fan are right to not give Brian Kelly the benefit of the doubt for anything. He doesn't deserve it. Bill Gallion, Brad David, do you think Napier was forced to fire Raymond? I don't know that he was forced to fire Raymond. I think it's one of those things where he had to make changes, similar to Brian Kelly. Except Brian Kelly has a 10-year contract, has much more leverage than Billy Napier does. So that happens all the time. Coaches have to have fall guys. And they made 2 defensive staff changes at Florida. And I think it could be to LSU's benefit because now you don't have to go try to buy out Billy Napier or buy out Corey Raymond. He's available. Bring him back. Edward O. Nuts bus driver. Carr hasn't been the same since taking that hit versus Green Bay. Tell me I'm lying. I don't think you're lying because lying means you're telling an untruth with the intention to deceive. So I don't think you're lying. I just think you're wrong. I mean, think back to the very first game of this year against the Tennessee Titans. Derek Carr was awful in that game. You scored, 15 points in that game? What was the final? You won that game 16-15. So then you went up to Carolina and played the Panthers and won and scored 20 in that game. I mean, look at Carr's line against Tennessee. 23 of 33 for 305, a touchdown and a pick. He scored 16 points. He's a stat pattern. He's the emperor of empty yards. It's what he's always been. He's the same guy. It's the same guy he's been for now 10 NFL seasons. So no, he doesn't look any different than he did against Green Bay. He looks the exact same he has his entire career. Drew's up. Hang on one second. I'll be right back. Okay. Poor bud. Trying to send him to school today. Like, he's been on an antibiotic. Doctor said he's not contagious anymore. Like, he's good to go to school. Look, he was sounding and feeling better. Now he's waking up coughing. So we'll see. Anyway. All right, a couple more minutes. Do me a favor. Please smash that like button if you would. Subscribe up to the channel. Facebook, please like the Matt Scone page. Share the post. Chris Nelson, Irfan Sayad, Don Juan, he's going to Notre Dame. Leonard, though, went in with non-con. He's going to Notre Dame. Leonard, though, went in. I don't know what that means. Glenn Garner, what's going on? Christian, good morning. Samuel Davis, do you think we go after the Texas A&M D-line coach? It's rumored he won't be retained there. No, I don't. I'm curious to see what they do defensively. Of course, you know, remember how it was set up. You had Jimmy Lindsey as the D-line coach, John Jancic outside linebackers, and Bob Diaco was an analyst. Well, Jimmy Lindsey had his medical episode. Jancic moved down to defensive line coach. Diaco went into an on-field role, coaching special teams and outside linebackers. And then you later brought in Pete Jenkins. I don't think they're bringing Pete Jenkins back next year. Certainly not in the role that he filled this year. Is Jimmy Lindsey back? If so, does that mean you move John Jancic back to coach outside linebackers and Diaco goes back to an off-field role? Does Diaco maybe coach linebackers as well? I don't know. I don't know what they elect to do. Matt House coaches linebackers right now, but what's very clear is that you have a bit of a log jam that has to be worked out. Regardless of what happens with Matt House, I mean, you had a staff shuffle because of Jimmy Lindsey's medical situation. Well, if Jimmy Lindsey's back, then, I mean, there's going to be movement somewhere. But no, I don't think they're necessarily bringing in another defensive line coach. If they do, I think it would be Bo Davis. Brett DeGrow, great interview with Moon yesterday. Oh, thanks, man. Yes, I was on Moon Graffon's show yesterday. I've known Moon a long time. I mean, that's back to my news days at WIBR 2003, 4, 5. Moon was on WIBR back then, so I've known Moon literally 20 years. Brian Penn, good morning from Arkadelphia. Tiger Diver, good morning. Do you think Washington can pull it out tomorrow? Yeah, I do. I understand why they're not favored, and Oregon has played well. I think Washington's played a tougher schedule, and Washington hasn't looked great in the last month. Really, the best Washington looked this year was when they beat Oregon, and since then, they've played a lot of close games. And Oregon looks very, very consistent and strong on both sides of the ball. So I get why Oregon's favored in the game. But you got Michael Penix, got an explosive offense. I think the concern, obviously, is Washington's defense isn't very good. So it's probably going to be a game similar to the first. We're going to have to go outscore them. Guy Brooks, Matt, did you see or hear Mickey's comments about the Saints having a good offense and team having the right pieces in place? I did. We played him yesterday on AFR. He said he's confident they have the right people in the building and that they just got to get better in the red zone, and they've got 17 years of history suggesting that they'll figure it out in the red zone. And I'm like, yeah, but the two biggest pieces you had were Drew Brees and Sean Payton, and they're not here anymore. So actually your history doesn't matter a lick with this staff and current roster. Samuel Davis, what time does Keylan Moses make his commitment? I believe it's tonight about 6 o'clock. Larry Garner, Terrell Walker, Barry Jocelyn, Dennis Guidry, Mo Thibodeau, Jay Benoit. Let's see, Tara Matt, do you think if Moses commits today because House is fired, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I think you're saying if Moses commits and Matt House gets fired, does he flip? No, I don't. I think Keylan Moses is going to LSU regardless. Matt McGuire, good morning, Matt. Given the direction the Saints have been going, do you think there's a possibility of New Orleans losing the franchise like they almost did in 2005? No. Gail Benson is a New Orleans native. She's not moving the franchise, and she's already, in her will. I remember this happened when Tom Benson died. Gail has in her will a succession plan to keep the team in New Orleans. So no, I don't think the Saints are leaving. GameCube man, do you think Kelly will make any changes on the defensive staff before signing day? I wish I knew. I don't like to give you an answer to something I don't know. Normally when I tell y'all stuff, even if I phrase it as an opinion, I know the answer, and I don't know the answer. Randall Offred, good morning, Scone. Did you hear Derek Carr get salty when Nick Underhill asked him about the red zone struggles yesterday? I didn't, but I need to go back and listen. What's the word on the kids that entered the portal from Florida that Corey Raymond recruited? Remember, Jay Benoit, you can't formally enter the portal until Monday, so you can't contact players in the portal until they're formally in the portal Monday. So there's nothing to say about those guys yet. Now, except so like yesterday, remember, Max Johnson already announced he's going to North Carolina. Max Johnson's a graduate. Graduates can go in the portal at any time and announce their commitment at any time. So so that's the difference with that one, just as an FYI. LSU Daily Podcast. Yeah, y'all do me a solid. Subscribe up to LSU Daily if you haven't done so yet. We appreciate y'all. Cliff Nelson, why not move Diaco to D.C.? I think John Jansick and Bob Diaco would both be perfectly acceptable candidates. They've both been DCs at high levels. They've both had great success at high levels being a defensive coordinator. I don't think the fan base would love that on either front, but I think I would be perfectly fine with either of those decisions. Barry's in Toronto break, Chris, everybody front. All right, y'all, I got to get going. It's 8 o'clock. I got to get Drew addressed, getting back to school. Bailey C. Why does 9-3 feel so bad? Because it could have been so much better if your defense had a pulse. I mean, you'd be in the playoff. You certainly wouldn't have blown a 9-point fourth quarter lead against Ole Miss. You'd be 10-2, and you'd at least minimum be New Year's 6. Jaden would be the Heisman front runner. That's what it is. Okay, got to go. Y'all have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. Peace.